Assalamu alaikum, dear sisters and brothers. For tonight we're preparing cookies. They're walnut stuffed cookies. They're called Kilocher Fooman, and they're from the city of Fooman in northern part of Iran. So we will start with preparing Kilocher Fooman because the dough for that we have to make it ahead of time and rest it for 1 hour to 2 hours, and then we can show you how to stuff it and shape it and bake it. So I'll grab my ingredients for Kilocher Fooman and I'll be back to show you how to prepare the dough. So I'll show you the ingredients for Kilocher Fooman. We need like quite a lot of ingredients, but it's very easy to prepare the dough, so don't be scared. So basically we need butter, we need yogurt, warm water, we need warm milk, we need yeast, baking powder, a bit of salt, eggs, sugar and flour. So the first step for Kilocher Fooman, we have to put like the milk that we have in a pot, in a saucepan, something, and we're gonna use the butter that we have and also place it with the milk, and I'll place these over stove over medium heat. Just want to melt the butter, and I don't want it to be very hot, just want to melt the butter. So I will place this over the stove and just melt it, and I'll be back to show you the next step. So while the butter is melting, I'll do the next step. I'll just simply add some yeast to this warm water that I have. It has to be warm, it shouldn't be cold or hot. And you can measure that, simply use your pinky and just put it inside the water, and if you can just like keep it for a few seconds, then the water temperature is perfect. So I'll add some sugar to this, not much, and I'll just give it a stir. And I'll add some yeast to that. And I'll just put it aside until you see the color of the water starts changing. All the yeast dissolves in the water and it forms a foam at the top, at the surface. So I'll basically just leave it for 5 minutes and then we will use it. And the next step we have to do is to crack some egg. And to this I'll add some sugar. And just whisk it. I'll add the yogurt. I'll put this aside and continue with the next step. I'll just get another bowl and measure some flour. To the flour, I'll add just a small pinch of salt. The salt actually in baking is very important, especially like when you make any sort of dough. It helps, the dough to become like softer and very, playable. I'll add some baking powder to this and just quickly stir, just to make sure the baking powder it's mixed with the flour properly. So I have 2 bowls here, and I still need to get my buttermilk mixture, and I'll show you how to mix the dough. So basically I have the milk and butter mixture. I have the yogurt with the egg and sugar, and here I have the flour with the baking powder and salt, and here's the yeast. You can see how it changed. Basically the yeast is alive again from the dried stage. So I'll just pour everything over each other. I'll add all the liquids in one place. And I'll add this here as well. I'll just make sure every single bit of the yeast goes in my mixture. So basically now I have dried ingredients and the liquids. I'll just mix them together. I'll add a bit. Now always when making any dough, preparing any dough, we make a well in the center and just pour your liquid in the center and just bring the flour from the sides to the center. So if you have a stand mixer, you can just use the stand mixer and prepare your dough, but I like to prepare it by hand. And after this stage of mixing, I'll just knead the dough, also using my hands. So I just want to make sure the texture is the right texture and that it doesn't stick to my hand. But if you're rushing or don't want to exercise, then just use the stand mixer, or even like the electric mixer. That it has like not the whisk, it has another thing attachment to it usually that you can use it to prepare the dough. So at this stage I'll just start using my hand. So I'll just get some flour, put it on the side, and I'll just sprinkle the surface here. I'm using this mat here because I don't want to use the countertop. I don't like doing that, but if you have a clean granite countertop or marble, you can use it. You can just like knead your dough over the countertop. So here I have the dough. It's very soft and squishy and playable. I'll just start kneading it back and forth, and if you feel like it needs some more flour, you just like lightly sprinkle it with some flour. So this kneading really helps the dough to rise nicely and also the cookies later on. And you need to do this kneading for 5 minutes at least, or you can do it also up to 10 minutes. So I'll just continue kneading the dough. So you can just simply go in circles because it's a very soft dough. You can do it like this. It's almost like a brioche or croissant dough. So you can just maybe just raise it and tap it. Do whatever you like, however you want. That's why I don't use the machine actually, because I really enjoy working the dough myself, because like it's fun. You can do it also with your kids. If you like, they will really enjoy it. So the dough is ready. I'll just place it in a clean bowl. I'll get my bowl. Just sprinkle the bowl with some flour. Also sprinkle the dough with some flour. And just place the dough here. And I'm just gonna wrap it with a cling film and leave it in a warm place. It doesn't have to be hot or oven or something, just like any warm place in your house, like in the kitchen you have. Leave it for 1 hour or up to 2 hours until you see the dough, it's risen properly. It's like it has to be double in amount. So then you know the dough is ready. Then I'll show you how to stuff the dough to make the cookies for today. So while waiting for the dough to rise, I'll prepare the filling. For the filling for the cookies that we're making today, the Kilocher Fooman, we need walnut, we need nutmeg, cinnamon, just a bit of rose water, butter, flour and sugar. So I started chopping some walnuts, and I'll continue chopping. You have to chop it fine. So you can use also a spice grinder or food processor, whatever you like. But we don't want it to be like a paste. I still want to see like few chunks of walnut in it. So it's better if you have a sharp knife and you just chop it by hand. So this is, the walnut is done. This is how much walnut I need. To my walnuts, I'll add some sugar. And some nutmeg. So I need more nutmeg than the cinnamon, because that's the main flavor. And just a bit of rose water, like a very small amount. And we also need flour. And we have to melt the butter. So I'll melt the butter and add it to this, and I'll just stir it until it forms a paste, and we will have the filling ready. I melted the butter. I'll just add it to rest of the ingredients for the filling. And just simply mix it, mix everything together. So the butter and the flour that we added to the sugar, walnut, and the spices, basically they will help the filling to hold, to bind, and becomes like, you know, easier to fill the cookies with. Okay, the filling for the cookie is ready. So we're gonna shape the kilocher, the cookies. As you can see, the dough beautifully rised. I'll just sprinkle here with a bit of flour, and I'll just slowly drop this down. It's very soft and smooth. I'll just roll this like this, just to shape a log. Just make it longer. You don't have to do this, but I like to make it this way. So when I cut the dough, I get the same size. I'll just simply use a knife, cut it in half. You can make these cookies like large circles, or you can make them smaller circles as you like. I prefer to do them large, so each person gets one. So, and actually the original authentic cookie, it's large. They're very big, they're like this big. So I'm gonna do them the same size. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need to make them into 12 or 14. Just take a piece at a time, roll it into a circle, and back into the ball. Sprinkle it with some flour, all the sides and the bottom. And place them back here. I'll start by taking one of these balls at a time, and I'll show you how to make it. Just sprinkle the surface that you're using with some flour, and it's a very pliable dough, so you can simply use your hand. And since this one has circles, I can just follow the circle that I have and make it as big as this circle. I'll use a spoon and about 1 tablespoon of the filling, the walnut filling that we prepared, and just lift all the sides of the dough, bring them to the center, and just take all the excess, cut it with your hand, the excess dough, shape it into a ball again, and use a rolling pin just to roll it down. And if it sticks like this, just sprinkle it with some flour. It's because of the sugar and the butter in this recipe that it becomes a bit sticky. You can also use your hand if you don't want to use the rolling pin to avoid the sticking. You can see, like when you press it down, you press the ball down, you need to see all that filling that you have inside, because I don't want the dough to be very thick. It has to be thin so it crisps nicely. And then another step for this is important to do because if you don't use cookie cutter or something to cut shapes, to cut the dough, actually we need to cut the dough, the cookie will puff and it will be like a cupcake. If you want it to stay like this, flat, just use any shape cookie cutter. And if you don't have any cookie cutters, maybe just, you know, use a knife and just make a cross, and that's it, just to cut the dough. I'll place these, all of these, in the baking pan, in the baking tray that I have, and continue with the rest of the dough. I'll make all the cookies, set them here, then I'll show you how to garnish the top before baking. So I finished some of the cookies. I'll just, I'm using the egg yolks. You can use whole egg, but I prefer only the yolks. I'm doing an egg wash for the surface. To that, to the egg yolk, I'll just add 1 tablespoon of saffron. I'll add just a bit more. We don't want it to be very runny and soggy. Just a bit of saffron to give it also color as well as some fragrance. So I'll just brush all the cookies with this. You can just simply bake them as the way they are now, or you can add just a sprinkle of sesame and poppy seed mixture. It gives it a nice crunch and extra flavor, and also makes it look nice. So the cookies are ready now. I'll bake them in a preheated oven. You have to preheat the oven on 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit, and bake it until you see the bottom is golden and the surface is golden as well. It takes about half an hour. Use my cookbook, Authentic Iran, explore Iran's culture, and learn how to cook more than 100 of Iran's delightful recipes. Get your copy on Amazon or on express.com.